All right, another episode. Today we are making hot Italian sausage. Now whether or not it's officially Italian or not, I don't know. I am going to make it anyway and call it that because it's going to be hot and I like hot Italian sausage. Let's get started. So what we're going to do is we've had the grinder attachment for our KitchenAid in the freezer for about 45 minutes. I've already gone and cut up the pork, and I have a few fillets here that I'm also going to use for the meat part. So I'm going to cut those into small sections to allow them to easier access to the grinder. Kind of like little 1-inch cubes. Doesn't need to be fancy, they're getting all ground up anyway. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and fire up our KitchenAid. We're going to move that over to number 4 on your KitchenAid mixer. Alright, we got our plunger. We're going to go set this to 4. I'm going to start throwing some ground meat in here first for the steak. What you're going to do is go nice and slow. Both sets of meat, the filet and the pork, were also put in the freezer for about an hour or so. It can actually be frozen solid if you want. It probably won't be as easy to cut. But I usually get them to the point where the outside is a little bit hard, the inside isn't so much. I just find it makes it a little bit easier to get it through the grinder. It's also a lot easier to manage once we get moving forward here. We got all of our filet in, and now I'm going to start throwing in the pork. Again, don't have to be forceful. I'm lightly pressing on it. The grinder does the majority of the work. Now this pork is actually leftover trimmings from barbecue spare ribs that I made this weekend. I like to trim my spare ribs up, make them kind of nice and even. Many others out there do the same thing, so that's nothing new. But instead of letting anything go to waste, it's all getting used. I took the remaining pieces of bone out of all these little trimmings off of the pork spare ribs and decided, you know what, I got this much left over. There's probably about 3 pounds of leftover pork trimmings here, and I had those 2 beautiful fillets, which I'm sure my wife will not be happy that I'm turning into hot sausage, but oh well. Making use of all the trimmings from that pork, nothing went to waste. Now you're probably noticing there is a greater amount of pork than there is ground meat, but that's okay. You don't even have to use beef. The sausage will come out just fine using strict pork only. So all in all, we probably have close to almost 4.5, 5 pounds of ground soon-to-be sausage. When we total it all up. Let that keep pushing forward a little bit here. Looks like we got about all we're going to get out of that one. So I will clean up another bowl, and we're going to get to mixing all of our spices. Looks like it might be wine o'clock. All right, so now we'll go ahead and I'm going to pour all of our ingredients into this bowl. I put my ingredients in first and then putting the meat on top of it. I find it kind of makes it easier to mix it all up. So, already talked about the pork and the ground meat we put together. I have about a tablespoon of salt and a half a teaspoon, closer to a teaspoon of ground black pepper. Here we have 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar and 4 tablespoons of the amazing Cabernet that I am drinking tonight. Next we have about a 1/4 cup of freshly chopped parsley. I've got 6 cloves of garlic that I minced. There's a lot in this one. This is about 2 teaspoons, excuse me, of onion powder. There's about a half a tablespoon of dried basil, half a tablespoon of oregano, dried as well, 1.5 tablespoons of fennel seeds. I put those through my spice grinder to turn it into some powder. To get the heat, I have 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper. There is a half a teaspoon of dry sage, a half a teaspoon of paprika, and about a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. I also threw in a little bit of additional, I have my own little spice blend that I like to make out of a lot of different hot peppers, dry those out in my dehydrator, and then use that same spice grinder to make my spice. So we'll put all that in. Here's the fennel. As you can see, it's pretty powdery. And that makes up our spices. All right, now we will dump in all of our ground meat. Yeah, that looks pretty. And then we'll throw on some gloves here to mix this up. You could also use that same KitchenAid mixer with the mixing bowl and kind of mix it a little bit easier. I just like getting my hands in there, just for whatever reason. So again, all the spices are on the bottom. I'll just fold that over, and immediately you can see where the spices are picked up by the ground meat. So we'll just mix all this. So again, try to incorporate as much as we can. Get it really all folded together. Man, does this smell good. That fennel really stands out. Now you can make this hotter. I know I only used a teaspoon of the red pepper powder and a teaspoon of my own special mix of different seasonings, but didn't want to make it too hot, but you can. This is my first time making this, so this is something new for me and for this channel. So we'll see how this comes out, and maybe next time either add more heat or take some heat away, depending on what everybody feels afterwards. All right, so that looks pretty good. I mean, that's pretty well mixed. You can see all the beautiful ingredients and the seasonings that we put in there. All right, so the next step is going to be, I'm going to set a little bit aside to cook up later, just to see how it is. And the remainder I'm going to put into 1-pound packages and vacuum seal them with my Avid Armor A100 vacuum sealer. All right, so we got our meat all prepared. And now I am ready to vacuum seal and pack these bad boys up. So we will zero in our scale. Because again, I said I want about 1 pound. I might go 1.5 pounds, depending on the amount we have left over here. That's right at 1 pound. And now we are going to vacuum seal with our Avid Armor A100 vacuum sealer. Super easy to do. So we got our 3 pounds. And now with the Avid Armor, you're just gonna put it right across the seal bar. As you like to pull it to straighten it out. Hold the top, start the seal. It's as easy as that. And I like to kind of push, get a little bit of that extra air out that you see. You can let go at that point and it'll lift up once it's done. Boom. And that's a tight seal right there. So that's gonna do it for tonight. Thanks for stopping by and grilling with the General. And all right, we'll see you soon.